Today, we're going to focus on the concept of translated beings and look at the City of Enoch to see what we can learn as it pertains to translated beings from the City of Enoch, as well as the translated beings of current presentations I have made on this channel, such as the three Nephites. And what does the literature on the state of being a translated being teach us? What do the scriptures and early church leaders teach us about translated beings? When a prophet such as Moses sees God face to face, what change on the body does this entail, and what do the scriptures teach us regarding the full glory of his presence? The glory of God was upon Moses, therefore Moses could endure his presence. Verse 5, wherefore no man can behold all my works, except he behold all my glory, and no man can behold all my glory, and afterwards remain in the flesh on the earth. And Moses 1:14, for behold, I could not look upon God, except his glory should come upon me, and I were transfigured before him. But I can look upon thee as the natural man. Is it not so? Surely. This last sentence is when Satan came to tempt him, but he was explaining how he would not endure in the flesh on the earth if he were to be in the presence of God in his full glory. We're going to talk about a sermon by Orson Pratt. What can we learn about translated beings from the story of the City of Enoch being taken off the earth? There's some excerpts from the book Assorted Gems of Priceless Value by Nels Lundwall. This was delivered in the Old Tabernacle in Salt Lake City on July 19, 1874. It is the doctrine of translation. But it is in the order of God that man should die. Man brought upon himself, he brought this upon himself by transgressing the laws of heaven, by putting forth his hand and partaking of that which God had forbidden. He brought this great evil into the world. Death not only came upon our first parents who committed the first great transgression, but the curse has been inherited by all their generations. No one can escape the curse so far as the mortal body is concerned. I think perhaps this broad assertion may be contradicted in the minds of some. They may tell us of Enoch, who was translated to heaven. They may speak of Elijah, who was caught up in a chariot of fire, and say, here at least are two exceptions to the general rule. But what do we know concerning translations? What has God revealed in all the revelations contained in the Old and New Testaments in relation to a translated being? Are we assured that such beings never have to undergo a change equivalent to that of death? Our new revelations that we have received inform us of a great many individuals that were translated before the flood. We read that a great and mighty prophet of the Most High God was sent forth in the days of Adam, namely Enoch, the seventh generation from Adam, who lived contemporary with his ancestor Adam. That in his days a great number of people heard the plan of salvation preached to them by the power of the Holy Ghost that rested upon Enoch, and those who were called with him, that they received this plan of salvation, and gathered themselves out from among the various nations of the earth where they had obeyed the gospel, that they were instructed after they assembled in one in righteousness for 365 years, that they learned the laws of the kingdom, and concerning God and every principle of righteousness that was necessary to enable them to enter into the fullness of the glory of heaven. They were instructed to build up a city, and it was called a city of holiness, for God came down and dwelt with that people. He was in their midst. They beheld his glory. They saw his face, and he condescended to dwell among them for many long years, during which time they were instructed and taught in all of his ways. And among all things, other things, They learned the great doctrine and principle of translation, for that is a doctrine the same as the doctrine of the resurrection of the dead, which is among the first principles of the plan of salvation. And we may also say that the doctrine of translation, which is intimately connected with that of the resurrection, is also one of the first principles of the doctrine of Christ. They were instructed in relation to this government, the object of it, etc. According to the light and knowledge which the Latter-day Saints have upon this subject, revealed in the revelations given through Joseph Smith, we find that those people, when they were fully prepared, having learned the doctrine of translation, were caught up into the heavens, the whole city, the people, and their habitations. How much of the earth was taken up in connection with their habitations, we are not informed. It might have been a large region. You may ask, where was the city of Zion built in ancient days? According to New Revelation, it was built upon this great western hemisphere. When I speak of this western hemisphere, I speak of it as it now exists. In those days, the land was united. The eastern and western hemispheres were one, but they dwelt in that portion of our globe that is now called the Western Hemisphere, and they were taken up from this portion of the globe. No doubt all the region of country occupied by them was translated or taken away from the earth. Does this prove that they were immortal beings from the time of their translation? No, it does not prove any such thing. How are we to know anything about it? We cannot learn anything in relation to it except by revelation. God has revealed to us that they are held in reserve in some part or portion of space. Their location is not revealed, but they are held in reserve to be revealed in the latter times, to return to their ancient Mother Earth. All the inhabitants that were then taken away are to return to the earth. Some 5,000 years have passed away since they were caught up to the heavens. What has been their condition during that time? Have they been free from death? They have been held in reserve in answer to their prayers. What were their prayers? Enoch and his people prayed that a day of righteousness might be brought about during their day. They sought abroad over the face of the earth and saw the corruptions that had been introduced by the various nations, the descendants of Adam, and their hearts melted within them, and they groaned before the Lord with pain and sorrow, because of the wickedness of the children of men. And they sought for a day of rest. They sought that righteousness might be revealed, that wickedness might be swept away, and that the earth might rest for a season. God gave them visions, portrayed to them the future of the world, showed unto them that this earth must fulfill the measure of its creation, that generation after generation must be born and pass away, and that after a certain period of time, the earth would rest from wickedness, that the wicked would be swept away, and the earth would be cleansed and sanctified, and be prepared for a righteous people. Until that day, saith the Lord, you and your people shall rest. Zion shall be taken up into my own bosom. Ancient Zion should be held in reserve until the day of rest should come. Then said the Lord to Enoch, thou and all thy city shall descend upon the earth, and your prayers shall be answered. They have been gone, as I have already stated, about 5,000 years. What have they been doing? All that we know concerning this subject is what has been revealed through the great and mighty prophet Joseph Smith, that unlearned youth whom God raised up to bring forth the Book of Mormon and to establish this Latter-day Church. He has told us that they have been ministering angels during all that time. To whom? To those of the terrestrial order, if you can understand that expression. God gave them the desires of their hearts, the same as he gave to the three Nephites, to whom he gave the privilege, according to their requests, of remaining and bringing souls unto Christ while the world should stand. Even so, he granted to the people of Enoch their desire to become ministering spirits unto those of the terrestrial order until the earth should rest, and they should again return unto it. Joseph inquired concerning their condition, whether they were subject to death during that period, and was informed, as you will find in the history of this church, as printed in the Millennial Star and other publications thereof, that these personages have to pass through a change equivalent to that of death. Notwithstanding their translation from the earth, a certain change has to be wrought upon them that is equivalent to death, and probably equivalent also to the resurrection of the dead. But before that change comes, they minister in their office unto those of another order, that is, the terrestrial order. Strangers will not understand, perhaps, what we mean by the terrestrial order. If they take the opportunity of reading the doctrines of this church as laid down in the revelations given through Joseph Smith, they will learn what our views are in relation to this matter. God revealed by vision the different orders of being in the eternal worlds. One class, the highest of all, is called the celestial. Another class, the next to the celestial in glory, power, might, and dominion, is called the terrestrial. Another class still lower than the terrestrial in glory and exaltation is called the telestial. This middle class, whose glory is typified by the glory of our moon in the firmament of the heavens as compared with the sun, are those who once dwelt on this or some other creation, and if they have had the gospel laid before them, they have not had a full opportunity of receiving it, or they have not heard it all, and have died without having the privilege. In the resurrection, they come forth with terrestrial bodies. They must be administered to, says the vision, and God has appointed agents or messengers to minister to those terrestrial beings for their good, blessing, exaltation, glory, and honor in the eternal worlds. Enoch and his people, understanding this principle, sought that they, before receiving the fullness of their celestial glory, might be the instruments in the hands of God of doing much good among beings of the terrestrial order. We read in the New Testament concerning certain angels that are in the eternal worlds, and the question is asked by the Apostle Paul, are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for those who shall be heirs of salvation? Not for those who were already heirs of salvation, but for those who shall be, those who were to be redeemed, that were to be brought forth and exalted. Enoch and his people were appointed to this ministry, holding the priesthood thereof, with power and authority to administer in order that those beings may be exalted and brought up, and inherit all the glory that they are desirous to receive. We're going to continue future episodes of this topic. We're going to monitor the inroads made by Satan